Despite the fact that The Darkness came out in 2007, it still felt like a launch game. While it had a ton of really neat concepts and some really great moments, as a whole it felt disjointed, and it's aged really poorly thanks to both its mechanical issues and muddy graphics. But today, we're looking at its often overlooked sequel, released a remarkably long 5 years later, and it is dramatically different. The most immediately obvious difference is how the game looks, ditching the muddy, grim-dark visual style of the first game in favor of a cel-shaded comic book style, which ends up fitting the game's overall tone and over-the-top violence much better, at least as far as I'm concerned. And that gleeful violence is probably the game's strongest point. Your demon snake buddies rip people to shreds constantly, whether they're poking through their chest alien style or literally ripping them limb from limb. And the art style does a great job of making it consistently fun and entertaining instead of having the risk you run with a more realistic style of it becoming gross and tiresome as time goes on. The gameplay in The Darkness 2 is a bit weird, and that's partially by design. In addition to the gunplay you'd expect to find in a first-person shooter, the player character can also channel the titular darkness to his own ends. However, parts of the gameplay feel really underdeveloped, and others feel weirdly overdeveloped. Shooting guns feels loose and just kinda off, although not as bad as it was in the first game, but using your darkness powers feels great, and it's clearly where most of the focus went, with tons of new abilities to learn and talent trees, to the point where it honestly seems a bit excessive. You can do a whole lot more with your weird snake tentacle appendages than you ever could in the first game, and there's a whole bunch of cool new powers that are completely unrelated to them. Thankfully, these powers make up for the lackluster shooting, and I mostly found myself using guns to complement my powers instead of using them as primary weapons. But I still had a lot of fun doing it. However, where the game really stumbles in a way that's not really recoverable is its story. Some of the plot points seem to be lifted directly from the first game, and the ones that aren't are boring and predictable. Nothing about it is interesting, not even the way it's being told, and that's disappointing, given the potential the first game had in that arena. Whereas the first game was this sort of coming-of-age story, literally, the second game is something where you start from the top, and it's just not as interesting. Still, even if you've never played the original Darkness, I would definitely recommend its sequel. It's highly stylish in a way that's backed up extremely well by its mechanics, and that was more than enough to keep me interested, even though the story wasn't good. At least for the 6 hours it took me to beat. Every Friday, I look at a game that people ignored when it came out, or has been forgotten since. Games that a lot of people have missed. If you like that idea, be sure to subscribe so you can see the latest videos. If you like this video in particular, be sure to hit that like button. And if you have an idea for a future video, be sure to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.